Welcome back to Arise Prime Time, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Charles Anyagoro. Now, as we mentioned at the outset, that El-Rufai interview on this program on Friday night might have kicked a hornet's nest, because in the last few days, another long-running confrontation has returned to the national stage. The clash between Audu Maikori and Nasir El-Rufai dates back to one of the most painful chapters in Kaduna State's recent history, the violence in southern Kaduna. In 2017, Mr. Maikori, who was in Lagos at the time, was arrested by officers over a tweet in which he claimed that 5 journalism students had been killed at the College of Education in southern Kaduna, a claim the state government disputed, noting that the institution did not even run a journalism program. According to Malam El-Rufai, who was governor of Kaduna State at the time, he asked for a retraction. It did not come. Mr. Maikori was subsequently picked up and arraigned before a court. But the matter did not end there. Both the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal later ruled that his arrest and detention were unlawful. And now, years later, the dispute has reignited after Mr. El-Rufai appeared on this program on Friday.
This one was a guy called Audu Maikori. He is the CEO of Chocolate City.
Yes, okay? Audu Maikori, the guy who was brought from Lagos.
Okay, he posted that, and we called him. We said, look, Audu, you tweeted this thing is false. Where did you hear this from? Because we checked. The principal said this because the 5 students that were killed were journalism students. The College of Education doesn't do journalism.
Right.
All right? So we called, we said, look, go and admit that this is not true, because this kind of reports can trigger retaliation from the people that, you know. He stood by his story. So what would you do as a government? And this is what we did in each and every of those cases. Anyone that does something that we think is likely to cause communal violence in Kaduna from previous history, our Attorney General writes to the police and says, look, Charles has published ABC. We've reached him to retract. He has refused to retract. Please investigate him for injurious falsehood, incitement, blah, 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 under the penal code. That's what happened in the case of Audu Maikori.
Well, they said these were your political opponents, that you were essentially silenced.
Maikori?
For dissenting against.
Maikori, political opponent, the guy lives in Lagos.
Right.
He cannot get 10 votes even in his own
But all those people I mentioned,
so this is what happened.
They all wrote articles that were critical of your government.
No, they didn't.
All of them did.
Look, no, they didn't. Midat Joseph and I are still in touch. We are good friends. We may have disagreed on something, but if you see any of them being... And what we did, as I said, is to write this. The police will investigate. And we tell them, investigate first before you go and get a person. They investigate. They invite. Audu was invited. He refused to come. So the Nigerian police is one. They brought him from Lagos and arraigned him. That's what we do. We arraign people before a court of law.
Malam El-Rufai. Well, for his right of reply, I'm joined now in the studio by Audu Maikori, founder and chairman of the Chocolate City Entertainment Group. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thanks, Charles.
And as you get your right of reply to Nasir El-Rufai today, are you defending a constitutional principle about unlawful detention and abuse of power, or settling a personal score over what happened to you in 2017?
Thanks, Charles. It's not personal. It is about setting the record straight and the facts straight. Ex-Governor El-Rufai has a penchant for recreating stories. Everything that he said is untrue. And I think it's important for the posterity to set the record straight. What happened was the tweet, the minute I found the tweet was wrong, was false, was I went to the first police station available, which was in Lekki, with my driver, wrote a statement. The driver actually wrote a confession that he lied. And he did that to obtain money from me to, for whatever purpose. The first phone call I made was to the Attorney General of Kaduna State. Her name is Amina Sijuade. And I said, I just discovered that my driver lied to me. He's in the police station, he's in full custody. I'm going to write a full retraction. That retraction was written on the 4th of February 2017.
Was it published?
Very well published. You
Right.
can Google it, you'll find it. Very detailed. I apologize not only to the governor, but to every other person involved. But I made, there was a proviso though. I said that that does not obviate the other incidences of people being killed. This is what
But you
happened.
accept that your tweet was inaccurate,
Yes.
and you made that clear.
Yes, and
You
that,
retracted the
I
original.
retract, and that's what integrity is all about.
Right.
When you do something wrong, if you have the boldness to say it, then you should have the boldness to retract it. Now let's
Right.
juxtapose that with what Madam El-Rufai did in February 2019. He tweeted that 66 Fulani people were killed in Kajuru local government. The Commissioner of Police, Alhaji Ahmad, made a statement and said, these facts have not been verified. Please do not bandy these figures around. The governor refused. NEMA chimed in. Senator Shehu Sani, who was
NEMA is the National Emergency
Emergency
Management
Agency.
Right.
Senator Sani, who was the senator of that zone at that point in time, said these numbers have not been verified. Do not bandy them around. He refused. He went in and made another press statement and said 130 people had been killed. Now, if the Commissioner of Police of Kaduna has warned the governor that these numbers are inaccurate, what did Malam do? He didn't retract. He didn't apologize. What he did was arrest 9 elders of the Adara community, and he jailed them for 143 days. No retraction, no apologies. The Attorney General of Kaduna State himself had to let the case go because there was no evidence.
Right. Well, let's concentrate on your own case because I mean, some of these allegations and so on, they run this way, they'll run the other way. I'm not saying that you're making up a story, but they also have a right to respond to some of the things that you say. If let's talking about your own case, if the information that you gave was wrong, which it clearly is, you've admitted that it was, should there have been consequences, even if not arrest? In other words, do you believe public officials have any legitimate recourse when they believe false information is potentially or actually inflaming tensions?
Of course, but there's a difference between prosecution and persecution. What I went through with El-Rufai and many other people was persecution. You see, a governor doesn't sit down and try to do the job of the police. His job was to report the matter, let the police handle it, and the police did. I was in Abuja for a week after my initial arrest on the 17th of February. I was there for a week, went through the process. My driver was flown into Abuja. He confessed that it was a lie. It was all on him. I was let go. What happened? The next weekend, Malam was on social media week, and he said, oh, Maikori is a liar, we're going to prosecute him. We're trying to link his tweets with the possible death of 7 people. And if we're able to do so, you could know the rest. How does the governor do that? The police discharged me. The highest
Yeah, but the
office,
point he was making was that your tweet, I mean, that's the problem with saying things, that your tweet could potentially have inflamed tensions
Yes.
in that part of the country.
Yes.
You see what I mean?
Yeah,
and therefore they needed to take some action to...
And the action is the police. The governor is not the police. And what we're saying is that there's a juxtaposition of roles which shouldn't be. Hand it to the police, let them do their job. They did their job. They released me. And then he came back and organized for me to be abducted. And that is why the court found and paid, and they fined him 40 million naira because it was unlawful, it was wrong, it was unjust. There was no basis whatsoever for it.
Right, but you yourself have accused him of hypocrisy for speaking about sort of illegal arrests, including his own and all the rest of it. Are you saying that because of your experience with him, he forfeits the moral authority to raise civil liberty concerns?
There's a maxim, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Now, I'm not saying that due process should not be followed because it's him. You see, that's a fundamental constitutional right. That should never be. However, it is ironic that the person who oversaw one of the most tyrannical leaderships in the history of Kaduna State, right, is the same person complaining about being treated unfairly by the same system that he used for his own
But he was the chief
war.
executive of Kaduna State. where do you draw the line between freedom of expression, which you clearly have under the Constitution, and the responsibility not to spread unverified claims, especially during a period of communal violence?
That point, so let's take that for a minute. If you were in Kaduna in 2017, every other day, these things were happening. 300 people died between the months of January and February. These are all in the public space. So hearing a story that another thing had happened with someone who is your personal driver, yes, you should have verified it, and I've already made my peace with that. But I'm saying what happened afterwards. What is the process of making sure that you follow that same due process that you're asking to be made upon you? It's wrong. So all I'm saying is that do not be hypocritical, right? But this is not about me, Charles. Steve Kefferson was jailed for 143 days. He was abducted from Port Harcourt, driven by road, and was kept without being charged, no bail. Adara elders were there for 150 days. No bail, no charge, just kept there. Gloria Ballison, my lawyer, who actually won those cases against him, was being intimidated and harassed. She could not go to her office because there were police manning her office to make sure they arrested her. She had to get a court injunction to stop him from harassing her. Is it the demolitions in Kaduna State? Is it the Shiites that were murdered? This is not about Audu Maikori. It is about El-Rufai's style of leadership.
Right. You accused his administration of bias against southern Kaduna. On what evidence do you base that claim? Do you believe the violence in southern Kaduna was deliberately politicized?
So let me ask you.
Or mishandled?
I think it's all of that. But I'll tell you what, let me draw a comparison, simple comparison. Nalam was governor for 8 years. Ubasani has been governor for 2.5 years. Kaduna has changed totally. It's a different place. You could not drive to Kaduna during that 8-year period by road without heavy arms. It's changed in 2.5 months of this man coming in. Southern Kaduna, Malam Nasir said Southern Kaduna people will never vote him. They're a minority and they're all PDP people. Today, Southern Kaduna has moved significantly from that because of the leadership. It's because the man is, I don't know Basani well, so I can't really talk about his personality, but his actions show very clearly that he's focused on Kaduna, another sector, another region. And the escalation of violence came from a lack of security. Guess what? This man sacked 25,000 people in spite of a court order. What does 25,000 people in a state like Kaduna mean for insecurity and poverty? Let's think about the ripple effect, and that is why those things escalated. So leadership is not about just the talk, it's about the walk. And I find that Malam Nasir is great at talking, but he doesn't do the walk.
Well, I mean, you described his recent remarks, to quote you, as sour grapes. And you linked it to political disappointment. In other words, he was turfed out by President Tinubu. Is that analysis or is that assumption?
It's facts. It's a simple cursory Google that will show you this, because this was the same person who was actively campaigning for the office. He did. He spoke about it. He even went against his former principal just to make the point. He submitted himself to a Senate screening to be a ministerial appointee. The only thing that turned north or south for him was that he couldn't get the security clearance. And thereafter, he left. Now, whatever those reasons are, I'm not holding for the government. All I know is that you brought these people into power. And just because you didn't get what you wanted, they became the enemy. But that is typical of Malam Nasir. Look across his history. He's done it countless times and he'll do it again. My concern is that we're in a space where, we're in a phase in Nigeria where we're looking for leadership. And leadership means that we're giving power to one person to exert on behalf of other people. Nasir has always used it as a weapon. Meanwhile, is an agent of trust. Power is trust. And if we entrust you with our power and you abuse it, don't come back and pretend by changing your jersey that you're another person. No, you're the same person, you just have different circumstances.
Are you, if you don't mind my asking, aligned with any political bloc in Nigeria at the moment? Because I know at one point you were, I think, vocally a PDP person and support of Goodluck Jonathan and all the rest of it. I mean, do you belong to any political bloc?
Yes, I'm in the ABC now.
In the APC.
Yeah,
The ruling APC.
the ruling APC.
Right, okay. Does that color your sort of way of seeing things from El-Rufai's point of view at all?
You need to remember that he was in APC when this happened.
Yeah, he was, but he no longer is.
Well, that's unfortunate, but that's not about that. We're talking about something that happened 8 years ago.
Right.
We're talking about a pattern of behavior. This man was a judge who have arrested me illegally, unlawfully. It was totally wrong. The High Court, Federal High Court pronounced that. The Court of Appeal did, and they awarded damages. What does Nasir do? He goes to the Supreme Court.
So the case is in.
So the matter is in the Supreme Court.
That's extraordinary.
And he used his personal lawyer to prosecute these matters.
So the case is still in the Supreme Court.
It is still in court. It comes up next year. We're going to win, of course. And my intention is that the proceeds from the damages shall be used to support journalists and people that cannot get legal representation.
But I would have imagined that that is a state prosecution rather than a personal prosecution on his part.
Government is a continuum.
In which case you can get the Kaduna state government to dismiss the case.
Oh, no. So my case with government is already gone. This
Right.
is my case against the government
Right.
for the illegal arrest. And
Okay.
that goes on. Now, I didn't go to the Supreme Court. He did.
No, that's what I'm saying.
So it's natural that it will
Right,
keep
okay.
going on.
Right,
It's
so
not-
he's
it's not-
protesting against the fact that you won the case
Exactly,
in the lower
on two
court.
occasions.
Right, okay. Now, we're almost out of time. If Nigerians strip away the personalities and the politics, I mean, you're a pretty prominent guy. You head a major entertainment group in this country. He's a pretty prominent politician. If we strip all that away, what should Nigerians learn from your case about state power, free speech, and accountability?
So I'll say that the first thing is that we have not been able to successfully hold past leaders accountable for what they do. And that is why we found out that there's a lot of impunity and there's an abuse of the court processes and people don't really care. And that's why they believe that they can do what they want to do. On freedom of speech, there is the need for freedom of speech and it must be guided and guarded. And I do not make lightly of the mistake that was made, but I did what you can do. He who is without sin cast the first stone. Nasir has cast several. I mean, he's been found with those sins many times, and nobody cast any stone against him. So treat people fairly. But the most important thing is that we need to get to a point whereby we have leaders that have actually built things, that are thinking about the people and not just projects. That are thinking about the nuances of a community and not just because you want to prove yourself politically right. And so this is not an affront. I mean, normally I wouldn't even come here, but he called me out and he said, you know, I was asked to come, and that's not true. I needed to set that record straight, and we have to keep calling these people out. Nigeria deserves better leadership, and we can't allow people to become born again simply because it's inconvenient for them to stay in the places that they were before.
Well, I have to say it's very interesting talking with you. I mean, you come across as a pretty intelligent young man, and it's good to have you here. Audu Maikori is founder and chairman of the Chocolate City Entertainment Group, and he has had his right of reply. Thank you very much indeed.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja and Lagos, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.